Okay, good to see everybody. Obviously a tough loss last week, and we win as a team, we lose as a team. I thought it was a pretty solid first game on special teams. I thought our punt unit was sharp. Those guys came out. They didn't give up any return yards. We had to replace two gunners that are in the NFL right now, and I thought Xavier Leggett and O'Donnell Fortune both played exceptionally well at gunner and really gave great effort, even though they were not leaving the field on offense and defense. I think that sets a great example for younger guys, that you have veterans like that are starters, that are taking pride in a really important job on special teams. The kickoff unit got off to a good start. We had to cover a kick early in the game and did a nice job getting that down inside the 25-yard line. I think it was a 16-yard return. And then the guys led by Mitch Jeter exceptionally executed the surprise onside to start the second half. My biggest disappointment was in kickoff return. We lost some one-on-one battles. Our first return kick was decent, I would say, but the one after the penalty where we would have had a chance to get some good field position, we just got handled in some one-on-one blocks, and we're not able to get that one through. So a lot to build on. We've got to keep developing players and find the right mix of people on these different units, continuing that process here this week. I do want to congratulate my guys at Duke, and I mean no disrespect to Clemson. We lost, they lost, people lose games, but I've got some really close connections on that staff. Three former assistants, my former strength coach at Ball State, Dave Feely's done an incredible job with those kids, and Pat Doherty, my old tight ends coach at Ball State's the special teams guy there. Rich Skrosky, who was my OC at both Elon and Ball State, is on that staff. Kevin Johns, who was our offensive coordinator at Memphis, who I worked side by side with for 2 years and consider him a dear friend. And then the head coach, Mike Elko, and I come from the same coaching tree and just believe in a lot of similar things philosophically. And those are guys I keep in touch with and spend time with in the off season, talking football and talking life. So I was really happy for them to get a big win. When it comes to this week's opponent, I've got a really long-standing connection to Furman and great admiration for this program, and it goes all the way back to the late 90s when I was an assistant coach at Lehigh. My boss, Kevin Higgins, served on a committee with Bobby Johnson, who was then the head coach at Furman. The head coaching position at Furman is now endowed in Coach Johnson's name. And Clay Hendricks, who's the current head coach, was the offensive line coach back then. I was the offensive line coach at Lehigh, and we became friends. And then shortly thereafter, when I was the head coach at Lehigh at age 31, and in our first season, 2001, we went down there in a second-round playoff game, got beat by a great Furman team that went on to the national championship. But that was really my first exposure to Greenville and their campus, and just seeing the things they had in place there as a football program. In subsequent years, I worked camps there. I played in their football alumni golf outing. I was around that program a lot, and I almost felt like the fifth Beatle for a while. And then when the Elon job came open, and Elon had recently gone into the Southern Conference, I think they had won one Southern Conference game in 3 years. But those guys at Furman, including Coach Hendricks, were very helpful with me in terms of just educating me on the Southern Conference and some of the challenges and some of the potential at Elon. And I remember every game that we played against Furman, including that playoff game at Lehigh. But those matchups we had at Elon, they beat us in Burlington the first year. They beat us in a 50-something shootout in Greenville. The next year we had a chance to recover an onside kick and didn't get it done. And then we finally beat them back in Burlington in 2008. And you would have thought we just won the Super Bowl. We made that a rivalry. It probably wasn't a rivalry to Furman, but we made it a rivalry at Elon. And so just a lot of, getting post-game meals at Tommy's Country Ham House in Greenville. When we flew in there at Ball State to play Clemson in 2012, the first thing we did when we landed was we drove to Tommy's Country Ham House and had lunch there. It was a non-negotiable, as I like to say. That was what we were doing. So my two oldest children both applied to Furman, and deep down I kind of hoped one of them might go there. One went to Elon and one's at TCU, so they both made great choices. But again, just a lot of admiration for this program and some great friendships with people there. And then the last thing I'll say is, half my career was spent at the FCS level, at Dartmouth, at Lehigh, and at Elon. And in many ways, I still consider myself to be a small college guy because you don't forget where you came from. And just some great memories of coaching at that level, some of the games that I've been involved with. I've been at Lehigh when we went to Buffalo and beat a team with 85 scholarships on the road on a Thursday night to open the season. So I understand, the mindset of a confident team that'll be coming in here, a team that's won a lot of games. And so for me, this week is just like any other week. It doesn't matter to me if we're playing the FBS national champ or we're playing an FCS playoff team. My approach is the same. We've got a great sense of urgency to get better. I think the players feel that in me this week. We need to have a greater sense of urgency to get better because we still have a lot of questions to answer here on special teams moving forward. And we're in the thick of the season now and time's running out. So we need to continue to have a good week to get ready for Saturday.
Any questions for Pete Best? Pete Lembo. I knew somebody would get it. David Best.
Pete, going off of what you just mentioned, I mean, with coaching so many years at the FCS level, I think so many people look at FCS and they look at the difference with FBS. This is a team, of course, that led the country in FCS for block kicks last year. What's the biggest difference you've noticed, between FCS and FBS players, and what are you relaying to your guys to get them ready for this week?
Yeah, I would say this. Veteran players are veteran players. Battle-tested players are battle-tested players. And those really good teams that I had at the FCS level or that I was an assistant coach on were veteran teams when guys were in a program for 3 or 4 years and understood the culture and understood the system. And that's exactly what they have at Furman. They have had incredible continuity there. And you look at this team now with the grad students that they have and the fifth-year seniors that they have and the fourth-year juniors that you have. That's how you win football games at any level, is by having veteran guys who have been in the system that are battle-tested, because there's no surprises when you're a player like that. And at any level, the really good teams that we had at Ball State were the same way. They had veteran guys, redshirt juniors, redshirt seniors, and as soon as you flip that and all of a sudden you're playing some young guys, they might be 4-star recruits, but it's still big for them when they get into a college football game and all the different variables that are going on. So these guys are they're like a very highly disciplined army. They know the chain of command. They know what to do. They know how to act. They know how to react. And so they're going to come in here and they're not going to be bright-eyed because of being in a big stadium and a loud environment. They're just going to do what they do. And if they do it well, they'll have a chance to win. And if they don't do it well enough, they'll just go back to work the next week and get ready for the next guy and not blink, because that's how they've been trained.
Pete, obviously this is a pretty banged-up football team right now with guys dealing with injuries.
Who, us?
Yeah.
Okay.
With Nicky Mawari, David Spalding, and how does that affect you guys when you prepare on special teams, knowing that the depth chart is kind of thin in some spots, especially areas that you like to use on special teams?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Ronald Reagan and trickle-down economics. But what I don't like is the trickle-down on the depth chart when we start having injuries to guys that you've trained for a year or two that are contributors on units, because then what ends up happening is you're filling in gaps and moving people around and those types of things, maybe playing guys that aren't quite as experienced. So for me, that just heightens the sense of urgency to get guys ready. So we're at an interesting point now because we're still growing and evolving. And I use the analogy of coaching youth camp in here during preseason, and still to a degree there's some of that going on where these young guys are still learning how to practice even. Like, what's the tempo that I need to go at in this drill to actually get better at what I'm doing? And we're still coaching a lot of those real basic things at this point. But now you're taking some of those guys and you're saying, guess what, buddy? Whether we like it or not, you're going on Saturday, and we got to get you ready to go. Yeah, it'd be nice to have next spring and next summer and next preseason to get you there, but this is where we're at right now. So that comes with the territory for me. And like I say all the time, I worry so they can go play, and that's kind of the mode I'm in right now.
What was your reaction to the chain crew delay at the start of the second half? Did y'all consider not running that onside kick?
Yeah, so you know what? Nothing surprises me anymore after 31 years of doing this. So, I'm just glad there was a chain crew, I guess. So, you control what you can control. And so Shane had the idea of calling them back over, which was a good idea. We brought them back over. We laughed a little bit, and but we believed that the call was there, and we were going to stick to it. And Mitch executed it really well. The rest of the unit executed it really well. So that was really good to see. But yeah, that's sort of a philosophy on life that's a lot easier to say than it really is to always live by it. But the chain crew wasn't going to talk us out of a good call right there. So I'm glad that the kids handled that adversity well and went out and executed.
Tommy, Pete, a couple for you. First, was the play designed for Mitch to kick and jump on the onside kick?
Ideally, yes. So we have a couple other fold players that add themselves on in case that ball squirts out, because you might have an opponent's player going at it at the same time, and two guys going at it, and all of a sudden it comes out in who knows what direction. So we sort of have some fail safes in place if that happens. But ideally, in a perfect kick, in a perfect world, the kicker recovers it himself, and obviously that's what happened there.
And did you make a pilgrimage to Tommy's before it closed a couple of years ago?
I did. So they were open that spring, the first spring that we got here. COVID was still going on, and we actually didn't practice on a weekend in, I guess it was late March. And so I drove up there. I watched Wofford play VMI. I spent the night up there in Greenville with Coach Hendricks and his wife, Leanne, who are dear friends. And then we ate Sunday brunch at Tommy's. He was closing that May. So we got to see him, and then I came back to Columbia that afternoon. So it was a good weekend.
Coach, you want more on that breakdown of the onside kick and kick coverage? He's in the film room this week on Gamecocks Plus.
There you go. Okay, good seeing everybody. Thanks so much.